So welcome to the Reimagining Dementia Conference. To get ready for what's ahead for the next day, 2 days, I wanted to do a little exercise. So if you'll indulge me, please, and just close your eyes. Imagine living with a health condition that has no cure, treatment, or approaches to manage the symptoms. Then consider that this condition is highly stigmatized and widely misunderstood, even by the medical community. How would you feel if this were you? Okay, and open your eyes. That's the point we want to start the conference at. Is so many of us who support and work with people living with dementia, we don't interact or come into contact until they're well on their path living with the symptoms. But there is that beginning point, and we need to start there because that's where so many perceptions, understanding of the condition, your resilience, how you go forward with it, all of that is really crucial. So I wanted to just, kind of bring you to that point. Kate Swanger, the chair of the Dementia Alliance International, who's living with young onset dementia, hears regularly from people living all over the world. And they're being told, not just in this country, but when they're getting diagnosed, go home, put your affairs in order, and then maybe come back in 6 months. Can you imagine any other health condition where you're basically told to go home and give up? No, I mean that seriously. Maybe there's some mental health illnesses that are sort of like that, but this is huge neurological condition where people are basically told to go home, and figure it out. It is the rare person who comes into some resources, some support, you're going to be living with this chronic condition for a long time. For people like us all, who are supporting individuals living with dementia, it's important to know what it is like at diagnosis, because we often don't realize that that's how their journey has started, and that lays the foundation for how everything goes forward from there. Make no mistake, being diagnosed with dementia is a major life gut punch. And people go through grieving processes that include denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, not necessarily in that order. But eventually, the point is, people, we hope, would get to acceptance. But if you're not getting any information, any support, and everything you hear is this gloom and doom and tragedy narrative, might you not get to acceptance? Might you get stuck in another one of the stages? There are fortunate few who just figure it out and connect with others and help others. And that's our advisory board. These are all individuals who, on their own, have figured it out with their partners, their other family members, their support network. And they have all not only gotten to acceptance, but they've gotten to living proactively, which is the next action step. Other disabilities, such as traumatic brain injury, loss of a limb, for example, once that happens, a whole set of services opens up to you. We don't yet have that in place for dementia. And this is important for us as a dementia community to know, number one, you can't address something unless you're aware, right? And then figure out what we are going to do. We've been talking about this for a long time, but this conference is about pivoting to action. If you don't have any support, that emptiness impacts everything going forward for them. So can you imagine now you're getting diagnosed and you're getting all kinds of positive feedback. They're saying your life isn't over, there's lots of life to continue to live. You're going to have this little bump. You're going to have to learn how to deal, with symptoms. They're not easy, and everyone living with dementia, it's one of the things that they will talk with you about. This isn't pie in the sky. This is a very difficult condition to live with. It's a very difficult condition to be a care partner about. But then what? We don't want to just get stuck in, oh, woe is me. There's life to live, and how do we go forward? So empowerment is hugely important. Can you imagine if we empower people and support them right from the beginning, how that might impact how they experience symptoms as they go forward? We don't really yet know what that looks like long term because there are very few people who have been impacted that way yet. They exist here and there, but not majorly. This is something, and so what happens is we harm the lives of individuals and people, supporting them by not helping them fully live. Are any of us doing this intentionally? No, but that is the outcome. The medical community has a diagnostic term for expressions that are expressed by individuals living with dementia. The behavioral and psychological symptoms of dementia. PTSD. Yay. Yay for that response. What other condition do we label people with who are expressing something? And I'll give you a simple example. All of us women in the room will reach a certain age, God bless, and if we do, we're going to be going through menopausal symptoms. Will we have behaviors? Will we have psychological But we don't label us. And that's important for our self-image, our understanding of ourselves. The medical community doesn't yet understand how impactful and negative this is. It's up to us to help explain this to them. We're going to hear shortly from these amazing panel members who have learned to live and deal with symptoms. Some of the answers to these questions and others. But before we start, I wanted to address you all, because by virtue of being here, you have self-selected. You are a special group of people who care about supporting individuals living with dementia. Arif Nazir, the Chief Medical Officer of Signature Healthcare and the current President of the Society for Acute and Long-Term Care Medicine, says that innovators are people who have a drive to do things better and are open to change. Innovators aren't afraid to put ideas into action. Welcome, innovators! Changing understanding and stigma about living with dementia isn't going to be easily addressed, but with committed individuals like you, it can be done. The Reimagining Dementia Conference is about pivoting from talk and ideas to action. Margaret Mead famously said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." We don't need to change the world, just perceptions and practices about living with dementia. Are you thoughtful people? Yeah. Are you committed people? Great. Then together we can change perceptions and practice So get ready to pivot. That is what this conference is about. Over the next 2 days, you'll make many new friends, learn new things, be inspired, hopefully have a great time, and return home to champion change in your community. It's my privilege to introduce you to 4 incredible people living proactively with dementia. Every day, they live their lives swinging for the fences. They are all members, blessedly, of our advisory board, and we are going to sit down and have a conversation and a discussion with them. So I want to start at the beginning. And we did this at the 2017 conference, but I want to revisit it because it is the foundation. Would each of you briefly describe what it was like getting diagnosed with dementia? And we're going to start with Mike.
Hello. First, I want to say that if anybody sees us sliding on it, we need seatbelts for these chairs. Laurie and I. So if you see us doing it, it's not the dementia. It's just I don't know who did that, but good morning. My name is Mike Belleville. I live in Massachusetts with my beautiful wife of 38 years, Cheryl Belleville. When I was initially diagnosed at the, I think it was 52 and a half, and sadly I got the typical diagnosis. It was, here's what the test results show. We can't say for certain, but it looks like it's younger onset Alzheimer's disease. Here's a medication I want to start you on, see you in 6 months, and he walked out the door. And that was it. We were left to figure stuff out on our own from there. And I shouldn't say we, I should say Cheryl, because she did it all.
Good morning, I'm Laurie, and the gentleman behind the camera is my wonderful husband of 38 years, Bryan. We live in Old Pennsylvania. I know you've all heard that. It's a bit rural. When I was diagnosed, first off, we went to 4 doctors, went through testing with each one of them, and they each passed to somebody else. They finally had us drive 2.5 hours to Philadelphia to the big memory center. And the doctors, after more testing, the doctors said, I'm just telling you what the other 4 didn't want to tell you, but said, but put their notes. You had early onset Alzheimer's and FTD. FTD sounded nice, flowers on the brain. No, that stands for frontotemporal degeneration. And I looked at myself, well, what about my work? And he said, you need to get your affairs in order, go see an elder care attorney. I was 55 at the time. Go see an elder care attorney. Spend as much time with your family and friends as you can, and come back in 6 months and let's see how far you've progressed.
Wow.
Yeah. We sat in the car and we cried. We cried. I mean, dementia, that's like old people in a wheelchair, right? I mean, I certainly wasn't old in a wheelchair, but I had that stigma. I had that in my head, like so many people. That's what I thought dementia was. So all we pictured, based on what the doctor told us, was that in a year I wouldn't know anybody. In a year I wouldn't know my family. So I have 5 siblings and we're extremely close. So the siblings and the in-laws, we all went to the house immediately and spent 4 days with the 12 of us in the house, just because we thought that was going to be the last time we'd know them. That's what the doctor let us believe.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Bryan Buren. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. I commute back and forth every month with my partner. I was diagnosed in 2015, but it wasn't a surprise. My mother died in January from my aunt died of Alzheimer's and both my grandmothers. So when I got the diagnosis, I really wasn't surprised. I was just kind of disappointed, but I was kind of waiting for it to happen. I, by profession, was a licensed, international flight attendant, so I traveled all over the world. But it got to the point where I couldn't do my job anymore. I couldn't remember things I was supposed to say. I was the person in charge of the plane, so I was responsible for all the announcements, and in case of an emergency evacuation, I had to have that plane cleared out within 128 seconds. I knew the speech. I've been flying 20 years, so I knew the speech by heart, but all of a sudden I could not remember what I was supposed to say. And in an emergency situation, I could not just get a book and start reading because of valuable time. So that's kind of how it started. The problem with me is that, number one, I live by myself most of the time. So there wasn't anyone around to really monitor and tell me what was going on. And the same thing was when I was flying, I had a different crew all the time. So it wasn't consistent in having someone be around. This is going to sound funny, but believe it or not, I think being diagnosed was the best thing that ever happened to me.
I'm Robert Bowles. I live in Georgia. I'm a retired pharmacist, and the process to diagnosis was very challenging. My daughter actually diagnosed me 4 years before a physician did. She's not a doctor. She's a school teacher. But none of the doctors would agree with it. But anyway, it manifested itself where they could see it. But it went through a nightmare of seeing 8 physicians in 18 months to get an accurate diagnosis. There's a lot of ups and downs. Through it, I had gone through neurogenic syncope, where I'd take a few steps, hit the floor, pass out some of the times. The symptoms just kept adding on to the point that they diagnosed it as dementia with Lewy bodies, which is the type of memory and the Parkinson's go together within a year. If it's more than a year, it's Parkinson's disease, dementia, two together. But what I realized, I academically accepted my diagnosis the day it was given. But that didn't get me very far. I went into about 3 months later, I went into a deep depression. And I said, I got to decide whether I want to live or die. The choice is mine. You know, my mother died with Alzheimer's, my dad with vascular. And I knew what it was like to care for me. What I've learned through this experience is my medical background with pharmacy and relationships with physicians. It opened the door for me to really reach out and take those skills and help people better understand living. Living is the most important thing to me in trying to get the message across. What can we do to add life, purpose, have a plan of what we're going to do? It brought me out of the valley of darkness. It gave me the gift of living. And through that, I went into dementia advocacy, and I've been doing that for 4 years. I start my 8th year with Lewy body dementia on the 27th of this month. It'll be a happy birthday. When you learn to live, it doesn't matter. You know, when you learn to live it.
Robert, that was a perfect segue, because the next question I had, and Mike, we'll go back to you, please, is, so you've got this diagnosis, you've not been given information, support. What happened next to you?
Like a lot of everybody else that explained, I mean, for the first 5 or 6 months, I went into a real deep depression. At the time of the diagnosis, I wasn't working. I was out on disability. But I decided I wanted to go back to work and work for as long as I could. even though at the time I had decided that early that I couldn't drive anymore. So I had no way of getting to work other than my wife Cheryl or some co-workers would actually pick me up, bring me back and forth to work. But you know, that lasted for, well, the work lasted for less than a year, but the first 5 or 6 months were just absolutely horrible. I tell people I was hiding under a rock because all I did was work, you know, come home, go to sleep. Rarely went out of the house, rarely went to see family. All the things I was engaged and involved with in my town, I was on the school committee and other town committees, all that stuff. But, you know, after 5 or 6 months, you know, Cheryl said, enough is enough. And I'd like to tell people she probably said it a little bit differently. But, we'll go with that. But, thank God for Cheryl. But she started making, she turned into Dr. Google and had to look for herself to find answers and questions. And fortunately, she called our local Alzheimer's Association chapter in Massachusetts. And that's where I got to meet other people living with dementia for the first time. And Chuck said that beautifully recently as well. Until you get to meet other people, it's like, well, I'm not going through that. You really say to yourself, I'm not going crazy. Because I really thought I was going crazy. But that just opened the doors to a lot of things, programs and services, and really finding out that I can still do things I used to do, just not the same way. But I don't know if I can answer your question.
I went home and the doctor said to go home and die, and so I got into a depression and just sat and cried and did not much of anything because after all I was dying, so why bother? And to top it all off, although I was diagnosed with FTD, the doctor put me on Dementia. I think I have that one right, but whatever it was, it actually increases the symptoms of FTD. So on top of just being very sad, I was going through a major downfall, and we started to believe that the doctor was right, that I wouldn't know anybody in a year. Well, after we did some research, we went off of that, and after about a month, I started coming back to about where I was. And then one day I'm on the computer and I'm researching what the heck is this FTD and what should I expect. And I thought, you know what, Laurie, all your life you were a motivator. You motivated people in sales. You motivated people with, I feel healthy, I feel happy, I feel fantastic, have a great day. And I had affirmations all over my bathroom, all over my car, all over my office. And here I was going, oh, poor me. So I basically kicked myself in the butt and said, you're not going to do this. This is not you. So I started going online, and one of the first people I met living with dementia was Susan Suchin. I miss her dearly, and one of the other people I met first was Mr. Bowles on a virtual chat group. And suddenly I realized, you know what? In spite of how the doctors put it, I was not the only person in the world 55 living with dementia. I really wasn't. There were others. And I found groups of people that were under 60 or around 60, whatever, living with dementia that were actually living. So, oh, this is me. Okay. Started getting involved first with dementia mentors, and then started mentoring people. Well, if you're going to mentor people about being positive, what do you have to do? It goes without saying. So mentoring people actually helped me a lot, and hopefully helped them. I started mentoring people. I started joining chat groups. And then I started writing a blog. My blog is dementiadays.com. And Tiva Snow found one of my blogs and sent me an email asking if she could use it. And then sent me a Facebook message and said, have you ever heard of Dementia Action Alliance? So Tifa actually introduced me to DAA. So I owe her an awful lot. Because with dementia action alliance, being able to talk to people and tell them what it's like, how you're treated, how the doctors treat you. Being able to tell people, look, don't be afraid, just live. I intend to live every single day the best I can. That's it. I scuba dive, I skydive, I jump out of airplanes, I jump off mountains. I'm still trying to think my next adventure. Might be higher balloon or rock climbing, I'm not sure. So I live. That is, maybe some of you think it's a death wish, but to me it's living. And that's what this is about.
I've had to reinvent myself several times. In the 80s and 90s, I was the AIDS director for the state of Los Angeles and chairman of right-of-way funding for the state of California with a budget of about $120 million. I had over 300 patients in that period of time die from AIDS. Many of you may have known one person, 2 people died from cancer, but can you imagine 300 people you know? The final straw for me, and I don't like the term burnout, but I was just overwhelmed when my second partner died from AIDS. I knew at that point that I needed to walk away, and I did, and ended up becoming a flight attendant, which I thought I'd never do. I've never even worked at McDonald's to serve people. So now I'm serving people in first class, so I really enjoyed that job. I got to see 53 countries. I met hundreds of wonderful people, and I thought life was great and things were wonderful, but I started forgetting things a lot. And I knew probably as far back as 10 years that something was going on, but I was in denial, and I basically said, oh, I'm getting old, I'm getting old. So after I got the diagnosis, I climbed in bed for 3 months and just grieved and cried and thought life was over. I got a card in the mail from AARP about a class called Life Reimagined. So I went to the class and realized that I could reinvent myself and become something else more powerful. And I became an activist for the Dementia Action Alliance and the Alzheimer's Association. I have given a face to Alzheimer's mainly because as an Afro-American man, we are diagnosed twice the rate that the general population is. And I needed for people to see that you still can live with this disease and prosper. So anyway, I enjoy now being an activist, and I've got to travel all over the world, and a couple months ago, me and Laurie went to South Africa, and we helped them with their first memory cafe, which they had never had in South Africa. So we spoke, a lot of people showed up, and this was the first time that ever able to talk with someone who had dementia and Alzheimer's. So that was a really wonderful, life-changing experience. So now I just basically fly wherever I want. I have free flying privileges the rest of my life. And people say, you fly and you have dementia? And I said, yes, I do. But it does have its problems. I've lost my passport twice in the last month, which is not good. It's just being careless. I put it up, no big deal, and forget about it and walk away. So I just came from Brazil 2 weeks ago, and I did the customs, and all of a sudden I don't have a passport. So I knew it was on the plane, so they went back, took an hour and a half to find it, and I was able to proceed out of the country. But I'm enjoying my life now, probably more than before, because I really have a purpose now. And it's exciting, and I will continue to do what I do, and not stop.
I'll pick up from where Ashley made the statement, my daughter. She asked me 2 years after I was diagnosed, she said, "Dad, do you remember me?" Don't you love that word, do you remember? Do you remember that I asked you the question, or told you that I thought you were getting early onset Alzheimer's? And I said, "Yeah, I remember it." And I told you I was not. And I said, "Now I've got the opportunity to ask you why you thought that." And she said, "Because you were slow thinking." And I thought about it, and I said, "Well, gosh, Ashley, I just came off the executive committee of the Georgia Pharmacy Association. And my 4th year, I was president and 5th chairman of the board, and I was finishing up. I said, I'm just exhausted. My year as president, I was gone 120 days from the pharmacy." And so, and then she said, a couple of months later, "I told you I thought you had Parkinson's." And I said, "I remember you asking that." And I said, "I told you that I don't have Parkinson's. I've had an essential tremor since I was 16 years old. My daddy had it." Through that process, the day I stuck my key in the door, I lost my will to live. I had owned the pharmacy for 38 years. The people were my life. I tried to provide them with love, care, hope, and just be there for them in any circumstance that they or their family were going through. And because I worked 60 or 70, 80 hours a week, that was a tough path to follow. I saw a counselor, I had to go see get the doctor to give me some medicine, an antidepressant. About 2 months later, the counselor says, "That's not working, I'm going to send you to a psychiatrist." I said, "Most of those need help themselves." But psychiatrist in this.
But she's a good one.
But anyway, he put me on another medication. The 11th day, I took 1 dose. The next, shortly thereafter, he gave me twice a day, and I basically almost went catatonic. It was a dark moment. They stopped the medication. The doctors put me in the emergency room. I stayed 10 minutes. They sent me to Macon, Georgia. And they diagnosed me with neurocardiogenic syndrome. That doctor is electrical, a cardiologist. And he ultimately had me on 7 pills a day. 5 pills a day to lower my blood pressure, 2 to raise. I'm still passing out. And finally, after 6 months, he gets to the door, throws up both hands in the air, and says, "I don't know what else to do. I'm going to send you to a neurologist." I'd already seen family practice. I'd seen internist, gone through that. Then I saw the neurologist. First visit, he told me, "You've got Parkinson's disease. You've got mild cognitive impairment. I'm going to put you on Sinemet." I came back the next month. "You don't have Parkinson's disease. You've got Parkinsonism, and probably got FTD." And I thought to myself, I'm 63, I'm on the outer limit, brother. But he said, "I'm going to send you to Emory in Atlanta." And I received a gift that day. My neurologist is one of the most gifted doctors I've ever seen in my life. They told me it would be the second visit before a cognitive neurologist. He's got about 19 years post high school education. He keeps learning. He goes to a bunch of foreign countries and works on stuff. But he was a gift. He gave me hope. They told me it would be the second visit before they would give me a diagnosis. At the end, he said this really bad dementia. And but that was a roller coaster. That takes a lot of energy out of it. So there were some dark times in that, but I came out of it. And life's much better. You know, when you can, I tell people, when we don't focus on our condition, and we think of others, and we think of ways that we can help others, my dementia fails in comparison. The benefits of doing that far exceed sitting there and feeling sorry for yourself.
So one thing you all and others on our advisory panel and others that we work with have in common is you all are glass half full kinds of people. So that's important to know. I think it's a little bit of an added challenge if you tend toward, you know, the glasses half empty kind of orientation. But you're all very kind of proactively oriented. So you're the pioneers. You are leading us and championing, showing us how to live life proactively. Now, not everybody has to skydive. And the second round, Bryan, I want you to definitely, when we get to you, talk about couch surfing. He has quite the story there. Mike, starting with you, could you talk please about what advocacy and activism that you're doing? What does that look like in your life? And how does, as Robert said, how does helping others and doing things and finding things that give you purpose impact your life and Cheryl's life and your children?
Well, the great thing when I was with, and I am still, you know, semi-involved with the Alzheimer's Association, is I tell people they saved my life because they reminded me that I can still live and I have a voice. But it wasn't until I came to my first and the first DAA conference that I learned what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. And that was to be involved with you all and advocating and showing people that you can still live a meaningful, purposeful life with this disease. People who know me, you know my favorite mantra from a movie called Shawshank Redemption. And it's get busy living or get busy dying. And I chose to be busy living. And I learned that every time I'm with these wonderful people on stage and everybody else. But it's absolutely 100% given me purpose and meaning back in my life. And I love to tell people that, you know, doctors are great. You know, they're great at trying to fix you, but when they can't fix you, they don't know what to do. So they give you a prescription and say, come back and see you in 6 months. When the number one prescription they should be giving people with dementia is social engagement. It's to be engaged, to be involved, to be doing something. I don't care if it's, you know, rototilling your garden or mowing the grass or whatever it is that makes you happy, you have to get out there and do it. And since I've been involved with DAA, I mean, my life is just completely, I am not the same person I was even before my diagnosis. There's no doubt in my mind about that. You learn it, not to say you learn, it's just, I think it's a part of it, all of us. The thing that scares us the most is the person who's gotten a diagnosis who's sitting out there thinking that they're by themselves and they're alone. You know, it's sitting in the same four, staring at the same four walls. And our goal is to be able to reach as many of those people as possible, to let them know that they can still jump out of airplanes and fly all over the world and be our honor goals. And it's just, it's life-changing, it's life-affirming. And like Bryan said, it's just, I can't say this, you know, getting a diagnosis is the best thing that ever happened to me. But getting involved with DAA, other, you know, than meeting my wife, is absolutely the best thing that's ever happened to me in my life.
am I involved in? I mentor 3 people living with dementia, each of them for an hour every week, where we get on a virtual chat. I help them with problems, issues. Sometimes they just need to cry. Sometimes they need strategies. So we talk a lot about how the strategies that my husband Bryan and I have been able to develop in my life to make my life more independent. I go on virtual memory cafe chat. I go in there once a week because it's just socializing. I work with Live Well, helping to put together the training program, but I can't talk much about that because I'm talking about that in another session. So, I have somebody from Live Well that I chat with every other week, and give him my thoughts on the website that they're putting together. Let's see, with Dementia Action Alliance, I'm on the product technology work group. I'm on the what's the book? Raising the Bar, and I can't talk about that either because I'm talking about that later. So. The podcast. So happy about the podcast. Every other week, we have a podcast where we've interviewed someone, a professional, and one of them was Laurie Scherrer, who we adore, and let's see, Dr. Power did an interview, and a number of other people, and we interview professionals on things that will help people living with dementia or their care partners. For example, we had someone who had worked at the VA for 25 years. And we interviewed her on things about the VA. And we had 5 veterans that showed up for our discussions. After we showed the podcast, we then discussed the issues. And the 5 veterans that were on just were thrilled. Because has anybody here ever tried to call the VA? She was able to give them answers to some of their questions and give them phone numbers of who to contact. We've had all kinds of things. So once a week, every Thursday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, we have a dementia discussion. And that discussion is for people living with dementia and care partners. And in that discussion, we talk about things that are meaningful to people living with dementia. So it's not just a normal chat group. We actually talk about things that are going to help. And that has gone pretty well. I'm really thrilled to see how well that has gone. And I write a blog, and I help Karen wherever I can, whatever I can help do. And I try to contact the people that come on the discussion. For the first time, I try to individually contact them and talk to them. And I do some other things, but I can't remember. So it's just out there. I do a lot of speaking. I've done quite a bit of speaking. I had the joy of speaking in New Holland, Pennsylvania, because they're starting to become dementia friendly, and I had the joy of speaking there. So, and I'll shut up and I'm sorry. Thank you. How does it impact my life? Because of Dementia Action Alliance and because of all my involvement, it helps me live. It helps me to be alive. I was used to working 60, 70 hours a week. Okay, I was a workaholic. I was used to always going. I was on the United Way board. I was on the Relay for Life board. I was going all the time. Then all of a sudden you're sitting at home, clean out a closet. Oh wow, I feel really good. There was no purpose in my life. All my advocacy, my mentoring, my involvement in DAA, my speaking, it gives me a purpose. It gives me a drive. It gives me a reason to get up in the morning. It's so easy once you're diagnosed to go, should I get up? I have nothing to get up for. Now I have a reason to live. I have a reason to keep going. And that's important. Through my involvement, I wasn't going to talk about Live Well, but I'll say one thing. Through my involvement with Live Well, I had an opportunity to speak with someone who has helped me to realize, you know what, I might have to mention that I hadn't forgotten how to work on a website. I might have to mention, I can't add and subtract anymore, but I still can do some pretty darn good Excel worksheets. I might have to mention, but I still know how to do charts in Word. And working, being actually working, whether it's doing work for DAA, doing work for somebody else, I start to realize there are things that I can still do. I can't do them the same way I used to. I used to do widget formulas on Excel. I was very good at the formulas, and I can't do that anymore because math doesn't make sense to me. So if you can't add and subtract, how can you do a formula? You can't. But I still can do a lot, and being able to utilize those things helps me to keep going. And I thank everybody for being here, and I'm thankful for DAA. The other thing it does, it allows me to see all these wonderful people at least once a month. It allows me to show up at a conference and go, Mike, you're rude! It really allows us to have a companionship. And my second family is my DAA friends and my dementia friends. It is, because they're the ones that help me to keep going and give me strategies. Did I cover it?
Being involved with DAA has allowed me to find a purpose in life, but also I have become an educator, a source of youth. I have problems sometimes remembering things, so I have to mention. Anyway, I do support group for Afro-American families who are taking care of loved ones with dementia. I have about 24 family members in my group, and each one of them takes care of their parents at home. Culturally, there are differences, and one of them is people cannot afford to place their family members in facilities. I was fortunate enough that when my mom was sick, in the 7-year period that I had her in a facility, I spent over $350,000. But it was worth it to me. I have been able to travel all over the United States and the world, speaking in conferences, giving a face to Alzheimer's and dementia, and just educating people. I wear this button pretty much all the time. And a couple weeks ago, I was speeding. I was doing 55 in the 35-mile-an-hour school zone. Cop pulled me over, license and registration, please, gave it to him. He said, you know, this is a $400 ticket. So he went back to his car, came back, and I noticed he kept looking at my button, and I thought, something's up. So he asked me why I wore this button, what was it about? So we got into a conversation, and I told him. He said, you know, I think my mother may have that. So can you give me information? And actually, I invited him to my support group. So he's now a member. And I didn't get the ticket. So it does come in handy. But one of the things I enjoy wearing this button is that quite often people will come up to me and we will engage in conversations, and I've been able to refer them to whatever needs they have, and I think that's why I was put here. I just have always been one who's educated people. I enjoy people very, very much, and one of the things I miss about applying this, I met so many people. So I decided, I came up with a solution. There is an international organization called Couchsurfing, where people will send you an email and ask if they can come stay at your house, sleep on your couch or your bed or the floor or whatever. So I, since last year, have hosted 120 people. And when we went to South Africa, I taught Laurie about couchsurfing. We stayed with a 68-year-old woman who lived by herself, and I know Laurie was very hesitant about the idea of staying with a stranger, but okay. So it really was a wonderful experience, and I've met so many wonderful people throughout the world with various occupations and things like that. So sometimes you just have to put yourself out, and people constantly say, "Aren't you worried about someone murdering you?" No, I'm not. But DAA has really had an impact on my life in terms of allowing me to be one of the spokespeople and to spread the word that life does not end with the diagnosis.
Let's see, about 17 months after I was diagnosed, something like that, I developed a big ambition. I told my wife, I said, we're going to have a really body dementia awareness event in Thomaston in 6 weeks. She said, we can't do that. I said, yes, we can. She said, no, wait a minute. I said, just trust me. That's the most stress she ever went through. But anyway, 1,000 people came to it. It was so amazing. I even got brassy. I reached out. I had sent an email to a doctor at Georgetown. They're doing a study on the drug formula. And I had the gall to ask him if I paid for his airfare and paid for his housing, I'd have a doctor pick him up at the airport, take him back, get the doctor to take him back to the airport. He said, I'd be delighted to. He said, my dad has Parkinson's, and I'm starting to have tremors. He came and spoke and told them about the research that was being done. Things progressed. You know, when we sit up here and say that, you know, we put a pretty nice picture on things, but there's some dark moments. And I don't think we need to neglect those. You know, I've had times where I would have visual hallucinations at night. Might hear people talking. I maybe have REM sleep behavior where I physically act out in a dream. I've developed a habit of saying 2 things I look at. One is I try to think of wounded warriors and what they go through and what their family goes through. And that makes me recover quicker. You know, because there's always someone that's doing worse than we are. But as it progressed, I sort of had a setback. And I become friends with Harry Urban. We're very close friends. He's in Pennsylvania. He's in his 15th year of Alzheimer's. And still starting memory cafes. He's still running about 120 miles an hour. He's beginning to find some. But what's helped him go is because he stayed active. But Harry was going to be co-founder of Dementia, what do they call it? Virtual Memory Cafe. That day I told Harry as we were getting off, I said, can we talk tonight, this afternoon? He said, absolutely. He infused me. You know, the big infusion came when I came on with DAA. I think I'm in my 6th or 7th, 6 or 7 years ago. But they gave me life. They got it. They understood it. And it fit it fit so tight that it propelled me into doing more. And Karen, I can't thank you and Jackie enough for what y'all have done in my life. We have choices, but let's make good ones. You know, on those bad days, look up and say, I can do this. I can do this. I tell people, I'm going to close with this, Karen. I tell people my daddy used to tell me as a child, when you think you can't do something, get in the room and talk, get in the corner of the room and talk to yourself. I have followed that. And so I try to keep a positive attitude and just say, yeah, really, and this is honest, most people will never understand what I'm about to say. I received a gift the day I was diagnosed. I didn't know it, but I did. No longer did I work those long hours, but I was able to see the world through a new light. I could see and be even more sensitive than I already was to the needs and hurts and pains of other people. And that can help you live. And it can help you live with quality and productive life. You know, yeah, I have times, sometimes somebody asked me, the last one, says, they asked a question 2 years ago, says, how are y'all able to get up there and speak like you do? I raised my hand, I said, I'll take that one. I said, I sat out here in the audience, wondering if my train's going to jump the track, if I'm going to be able to do anything. But when I stand up, a surge of adrenaline hits. That surge of adrenaline propels me into it. Now, I may pay a price, even today, but it's well worth it. When you can take those moments, I have a balancing act problem, a balancing problem, you know, as far as not doing too much. I've named a team, I call them the Nag Patrol. But I say that lovingly because they care about me. Kim and my wife are chairman. Kim McRae and my wife are chairman. But they look after me. I've got, 15 people that care about my health and well-being. Because, I may not be thinking clearly. I may not, my stubbornness is there's more people that need help. And so it's a balancing act for us, a big balancing act. I leave Sunday for Vegas to Cleveland Clinic, invited me to speak at International Worldwide Dementia Conference. And I've been catching a little riff from Judy of what I've done this week.
I want to commemorate that because they all have talked about many things, and as you see them at the conference and others, ask them what accommodations they make in their life. So for an example, when Robert knew he would be going to Las Vegas, he said, I can't stay for the whole conference. It's an accommodation. He knew he needed to go home early and just have some downtime to regroup, rebalance, so he could go on to the next thing. Of course. So we have mics on the floor, a couple of mics sitting out here. We're going to open up the questions to audiences. What might you want to ask our panelists living with dementia?
We don't bite. We might get hungry, but we don't bite.
Come on up to the mic.
As to what your biggest fear is.
What is your biggest fear?
That's a darn good question. I have to say that for me, and this is kind of a tough one, it's not dying. That's not a fear. But I know for a lot of people who have this disease, some people become very passive or you become very aggressive. And my biggest fear is that I'm going to be very aggressive. That's not the type of person I want to be. Especially to my wife or my family. I know I'm not going to have control over that. But, I hope that, I just pray that that never happens. But there's one thing I did want to say, and I promised someone I would mention this. It's off topic of the question, but I know this neuroscientist in Boston. I got to be with her a couple weeks ago, and we were talking. And she said, you know what? I hate the word dementia. And I said, I love you. And she said, no, I really hate the word dementia. She said, I was driving up here, and I was trying to think what's another way, or what's something else we can talk about it. And she knows, she hears how much I talk about DAA and everybody here, and she says, you guys inspire me so much. She says, I would rather use the term reinvention. So I told her I was going to steal that, but I would give her credit for it. So from now on, when people ask me, do you have dementia? I'm going to say, no, I have reinvention. And we're, like Bryan said, we're reinventing ourselves. But I hope I answered your question.
My biggest fear is also becoming aggressive with FTD. That's one of the symptoms that becomes very powerful. We've already realized that I'm getting agitated more quickly, extremely agitated at things that never would have bothered me before. And I'm afraid of becoming an angry, ugly person and losing my laughter. I'm also very afraid of hurting my family and what my family's going to have to go through. That hurts me more than anything is knowing that more than likely one day I'm not going to know who my husband is. My dear cousin took off work to be here. Amanda, I fear how I'm going to hurt them and what they're going to have to go through.
For me, it's very simple. Losing the memory of my partner who I love so much.
I don't really have fears. I always have faced life on life's terms. The one thing I did do, though, my wife has many comorbidities. In my late 50s, I began praying that God would allow me to live long enough to take care of her. And I still want to be able to do that. That's important to me. It's challenging sometimes. And I think about what my wife goes through and it hurts. Because I can have some behavior expressions. And I know Al doesn't like that word. And I'm going to get some information from Al Powell that I can give my wife. It's challenging. Because if someone interrupts me when I'm speaking, I'm history. I am history. And you're going to see one big show out. Because I've been put in a cage and I cannot find a way out of it. And if there's anything I could say today that's so important in interacting with people with dementia, that patience and taking that time, build that relationship with them. Demonstrate. Don't just talk. Demonstrate that you love them. You care about them. Go into their world and meet their needs. Forget yourself, put that on the background. We're just an instrument. It's giving the message. But when we do that, that takes away a lot of fears. When we do those type of things.
Powerful, you all. Thank you.
Mike said something that I hope I'm going to paraphrase correctly. It was very touching to me. The most important prescription you can receive is social engagement, something like that. That really spoke to me. My question to each of you, my name is Becky Kurtz and I direct our local Metro Atlanta Area Agency on Aging. So one of the things we do constantly is help families dealing with dementia and lots of other issues around what are the resources out there? How can we help connect people to the resources that they need? So I'm wondering if you all could provide us with advice for those of us who are in positions where we're able to connect people with social engagement opportunities or with other services. What advice would you have about how we provide that information and what information is most critical? And I'm going to go sit down so I can take notes on your advice. Thanks.
For me, the first thing I did when I retired from work is I went into my local senior center and I said, who do you have helping your folks with their technology issues? Because I'm a tech geek. I'm a weirdo kind of guy like that. But they didn't have anybody, so I volunteered. And seniors would come in. We started a group. They call us my school gals. And I would start helping people with their technology issues. It could be cell phone, it could be a laptop, it could be whatever it was. So for me, and my wife and I recently moved a couple years ago to a new town. We started the same exact program at that senior center. So my advice would be is to get in touch with the senior center. If they're not educated about dementia, that's the first step. You need to get everybody there dementia-friendly trained. Everybody dementia-friendly trained in that senior center. And then start collaborating with them to start offering programs for people living with dementia. Whatever it is, Zumba, jazzercise, whatever you want to do, get them engaged, get them involved with something. But please do me a favor and don't just say, why don't you come to this painting class? Because don't get me wrong, I started painting a couple years ago. Didn't even know I could do it, but I started painting a couple years ago. But when I'm talking about social engagement, I'm talking about get them involved in something where they have meaning and purpose, where they're engaged in helping somebody else. Whatever their career was, they could turn that around and start helping other individuals do whatever it is that whatever their love and passion is, because that's what gives you purpose. That's what gives you fulfillment. And that, for me, is the best medicine in the world. It's not a pill. It's being engaged, involved, and helping people. That's what keeps you coming every day.
I'd say go on the DAAnow.org and look under resources. There you're going to find links to things like Dementia Mentors. You're going to find links to Virtual Memory Cafe, to Alzheimer's Speaks, to a number of blogs that are written by people living with dementia. So DAAnow.org. Start there.
Name is Bob Savage. I wanted to ask you, as your sense of spirituality changed, once you got out of the mess and started to have a sense of purpose?
For me, it really hasn't. God has always been present in my life, and even more so now. I found a wonderful church that supports me because they all know I have Alzheimer's, and a couple of weeks ago I went to church with my clothes inside out. Had I lived with someone, they would have told me after I left the house, but one of the church members came up to me and she took me aside. She said, "Brian, your clothes are inside out." I thanked her, went to the bathroom and changed, and had a great day.
a deeper relationship with God than I ever had. I had a strong faith, but it even got stronger after I was diagnosed, and just trusting Him. I want to slide in one last thing, if you don't mind. Somebody mentioned, I think you mentioned, one of them out there mentioned socialization. I think it's in 2013, I took the acronym ASAP, and I changed the meaning. A is acceptance. Acceptance of the diagnosis, not only academically, but in the heart also. The heart is the driving force within that body. All right, the second one is socialization. The third one is attitude. What is our attitude going to be when dementia surfaces? How are we going to look at it? How are we going to get through it? How are we going to find a way to live? The fourth one is purpose. We all need purpose in life. We need to be able to have something that's meaningful, something that we can hang our hat on, and something that we can use to help other people.
Wow, that's an acronym to live by. We have time for one more question, and we're actually slightly over. Sorry, keynoters. Mike.
So I'm Mike, and I'm a TAB. Apparently, I'm temporarily able-brained. Trying to be politically correct here. Anyway, the question is, in everybody recounting their being given the diagnosis by unacceptable behavior by medical professionals, many of you went to major medical centers in which all kinds of research is being conducted. And that word didn't come up once in anybody's recounting their early experiences, the post-diagnostic conversation, or what they were being led to that could help them with purpose. So I'm just curious, did it just go by? Did everybody just look at you and say, you don't fit my trial, go away? It's just deeply curious that that word never came up, and it does all the time in cancer, for example.
No, it did not come up, but I decided I wanted to make a difference, I wanted to do something. So I started researching where I could go to join a research team. I finally found one and went in and oh wait, I'm sorry, I had contacted 4 and they said, well, we only take people over 70. Okay, so, and then finally I did find one. I was in the research study for 2 years, was on the real medicine, was really excited. And they pulled it and said that the statistics weren't enough to say that it was doing anything. But I think the question was, when I was going through all this, did anybody talk about research? No, not one.
I had a very similar experience. I was 52 when I was diagnosed, and they finally said, hey, we've got this research trial that's starting, and it's for people less than 65. And I was like, yay! They said, but you have to be 55. I said, I can't say what I said. But the problem, and I know it's changing a little bit. There are getting more and more. But right now, I would love to talk to whoever's in charge to find out who sets the protocols for these research studies, because I mean, I know there's 250,000 people under the age of 65 that are diagnosed. That's a lot of people. And if you're trying to get this disease at the earliest stage, I'm sorry to use the word stage, but the earliest point and when they're diagnosed, man, why are you blowing it by not getting people in their sad 30s and 40s and 50s? So if anybody knows the answer to that, please tell us. Believe me, we will make some phone calls.
Thank you. Please join me in thanking this amazing panel.